The fight back against the government housing migrants in 4- and 5-star hotels has begun. 4 councils have now taken legal action to stop the block booking of hotels in their area. And it comes as the Albanian Prime Minister has accused the Home Secretary of fueling xenophobia by referring to the 12,000 Albanians who've come to the United Kingdom on small boats as an invasion. He is calling on the UK to give young Albanians work visas. Meanwhile, the Bank of England is expected to unveil the biggest interest rate rise since the 1980s today. A hike of 0.75% is anticipated, pushing the base rate to 3%. Now, that would be the 8th consecutive rate rise. The time is 7:05, and this is Talk Breakfast. So, just in terms of the migrant crisis, it's making all of the front pages this morning. My personal feeling is it's a national disgrace. It's a national emergency. The system is in utter meltdown. We know 40,000 illegal migrants have now come to the United Kingdom. At this time last year was 28,500. At the weekend, 1,900 cross. Of course, the weather's becoming a little more inclement since the weekend. But, of course, when the weather is better, which it may be over the next few days, we then know we get more people crossing the channel. Just to put this into some sort of perspective for you, it is costing us £6.8 million every single day. That equates to £2.5 billion a year. Imagine what else you could do with that £2.5 billion a day. Perhaps go to the NHS. How about looking after the elderly? How about helping the food banks, those poor people who can't afford to eat? What about helping people to heat their homes? We also have a backlog. The Home Office have managed a paltry 4% of processing last year. That is quite frankly unacceptable. There are now 100,000 people waiting in the backlog to be processed, and the situation is out of control. Many people very, very angry indeed about what is going on. Many people are also blaming the Modern Slavery Act. Ministers believe it needs to be reformed as part of a package of new legislation to tackle the migrant crisis. We've also seen that this legislation, which was introduced, by the way, by Theresa May in 2015, is now the biggest loophole to deportation. In fact, France and Germany have much tighter definitions of slavery, and they accept only 10% of the numbers that we do. We know that Albanians are now making up about 60% of those who are arriving illegally. By the way, Albania is not a war-torn country. It is waiting for EU accession, and of course they can come here on a work visa, but they have to qualify under a points-based system. 5,000 Albanians claim they are victims of modern slavery, and that makes up about 26% of all modern slavery claims. And ministers are really struggling and grappling around trying to work out what to do. They're looking at fast-track deportation routes for Albanians, and they're trying to certainly repeal or at least change the Modern Slavery Act to make sure that we exclude dangerous people, increase the threshold for claims, and ensure that no late claims are made prior to deportation. That's one of the merry-go-round parts of this. This is one of the biggest political issues, the electoral issue, as we come into the general election. And my personal feeling is if the government doesn't take control of this, and rapidly, they will be out of office. It is a huge mess. Joining me now is Harjat Bangal. He is an immigration lawyer. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's a total and utter mess, isn't it?
Total shambles. It's nothing new. For the past 10 years, we have a Home Office Select Affairs Committee report which tells us the Home Office is not fit for purpose. Nothing has been done about that. We just paper over the cracks of this broken institution and establishment called the Home Office, which can't seem to get anything right, be it immigration, be it driving licenses, be it the passport fiasco in COVID. And we just keep on changing the heads. So, and thinking it's all going to work out fine, but it isn't. And what's happening today is an accumulation of the past 10 years and nobody heeding them warnings. So this was bound to happen, and it's come to a head like this, and the reasonable solutions are not being listened to, and it's just people saying, right, well, hold on, don't let them in, don't let them in. The mentality is we are we go secure Britain, fortress Britain, let's secure our borders, but we can't seem to do that. No one is talking about stopping the gangs and catching the gangs. There's nothing being done. Over the past 5 years, 5 gangs being caught, maximum of 6-year sentences, no deterrent. The gangs are using the point that you can only claim asylum in the UK as a selling point to traffic people across into the UK.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of where we are, it's extraordinary that when government ministers saying, well, we're a new government, we're a new administration. Well, actually, you've been in power for 12 years. You haven't done anything. This has been, as you rightly say, building up for many, many years. And we are now seeing essentially a massive breakdown in the system. Just 4% of those claims have been processed. Now, the Home Office is clearly not fit for purpose. We've got increasing numbers coming across. As you rightly say, they're being advertised. The traffickers are advertising on social media sites and so on, and they see the United Kingdom as a soft touch. How on earth does the Home Office recover from this?
I don't think a Home Office can recover unless it has a total overhaul and it starts training staff and starts getting staff to work quicker. I mean, a few months ago, there was an average of 1.3 claims being decided a week. Just 1.3 with all of the staff working in a Home Office. It actually went up to 2 claims a week, and they were treating it as a win.
So why is it so slow? That's the bit that everyone at home is wondering. Why on earth is it so slow and you're doing 1 or 2 a week? That's just appalling.
It's bewildering even to lawyers, to ministers, to MPs. MPs would come on and vouch at how slow the Home Office are. It takes ages. An asylum claim, once you've gathered all the information after interview, should take half a day to decide. Half a day. So if you've got hundreds of people working on it, you should be knocking out hundreds of claims a week. There's no fast-track system per se. I've had people who are waiting 2 years for a decision, and it's 122,000 now, the backlog is at the moment. By the end of the year, that might even reach 150,000, and next year it's not going to get better. It just does not make sense. And in the meantime, the migrants can't work. So they're going to be a burden on the state. Either let them work then. They can pay their own way, pay national insurance, pay tax. We can get the revenue back instead of spending money. This country has forgotten how to make money out of migrants, and instead we're spending the money on them.
You make a really interesting point there, and obviously what we should be doing is processing them quickly, deciding who is actually a true refugee, and those that aren't should be deported. Now, given that isn't happening, James is with me, James Bilby, who's the Chief Executive of the Federation of Wholesale Distributors. And James, you have a very strong point here, which is actually, and that is exactly what Harjap is saying, which is if they're here, and if we know where they are, why can't they work? Do some of the jobs you're talking about.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Being economically active is better than locking them up in prison conditions in Manston while they're waiting to be processed. As we know, only 4% of claims were processed last year. That's 96% of people who haven't been checked or processed. They could be working, they could be economically active. We've got a labour shortage, a labour crisis in this country which needs to be addressed. Lots of jobs which people from the likes of Albania do already and have done. You know, building work in your own home. I've got Albanian builders in my house as we speak. Why can't they be working, being economically active, paying tax, giving something back?
I mean, it's an interesting point, isn't it, Harjap? In terms of my understanding is once they come through that system, once they go through Manston, they're given a barcode, then the authorities really ought to know where they are. Is there a way that we could then facilitate that for those lower paid jobs or those manual jobs so that at least, as you rightly say, if they haven't had a decision made, they can at least contribute to the country's income?
Of course there is, and they're more than willing to work. A lot of them are willing to work, willing to pay their way, but the government don't let them because they say, well, that's going to incentivise more to come over if they realise that they can get a job here. But the fact is we need low-skilled migrants. We're in denial as a country that we need low-skilled labour. We were hoping that after Brexit, the British public, would get off the benefits and do these jobs. That just isn't happening. The care sector industry has been decimated by migrants leaving. Hotels, ask them where their staff's gone. It's gone. The construction industry crying out for workers. Lorry drivers. We haven't got enough lorry drivers. That's not even considered a skilled job by the government. There's no visa for lorry drivers to come in. The one that announced, only we realised it was a farce. Only about 50, 60 people applied to come over. It was crazy. So we need people to work here, low-skilled job. We have migrants already in the country. We're paying to accommodate them. Let them pay back into this country. There'll be no need for hotels. There'll be no need to spend money. There'll be no need to lock anybody up. businesses will be happy, employers will be happy, the migrants will be happy, the tax revenue, HMRC, will be happy, the Treasury will be happy, and hopefully that can make the public happy. It's a simple solution. The government just won't do it because we like to treat migrants as, all of them, as economic migrants, and we just demonise them.
I mean, just in terms of, I mean, that's all very well, but what about those people who have come here, who are keen to disappear into the black market? We know there is a huge drug problem in terms of those people who are trafficking them. They are disappearing into the black market. They are feeding those county lines. It only works if those people coming here actually want to work and actually want to pay tax.
Yeah, of course they do. And the reason they are put into a life of crime is because they've got no other source of revenue. If you were starving and you had £40 to live a week, feed your family on a voucher you could use at certain shops, which is the actual case for asylum seekers, of course you try and do whatever you can. The black market is being fed by the asylum policy. There's 1.5 million people living in the UK without a visa, without permission. Where do you think they're all working? They don't have permission. They're all working in a black economy. If we said, listen to this, how's this for an idea? If we said, right, okay, we're going to give you all 1-year visas, as long as you work, pay your own way, pay your own NHS, contribute to that, and you earn over 30 grand a year, then we'll consider renewing it. But we have conditions. You can't call your family over and you'll never get citizenship here. They do a similar thing in Dubai. You and me can work in Dubai for 20 years. We'll never become a citizen of that country. We're there to work, and as soon as you finish work, you have to go back home, or you spend your money out there. And that, what we would do then with 1.5 million people, that would bring in billions. There are migrants out there who, as our guest said, they're builders. They could potential to earn £60,000-70,000 a year. We could get all the tax on that. But the government just won't do that because they'll say, no, an amnesty will lead to more people coming over. We don't need unskilled people here. We only want doctors, teachers, nurses. Well, I'm afraid they're not coming. And we want to train the British people to do these jobs, which is just not happening. It hasn't happened for about 4 generations now. I don't think it's going to happen for the next 4.
Let me put your point actually to James. So the idea being that you get a 1-year visa, you come and work in your industry, for example, but you never have citizenship and you have to earn over that certain level seems eminently sensible to me.
Yeah, absolutely. At least then that people will be coming over via safe routes rather than extremely dangerous small boats. I mean, that is not a safe route. If you're that desperate to come here and you want to work, you should be allowed to work.
Yes, I agree. Harjap, if that was to happen, what do you think would happen in terms of the numbers coming across the channel? Just, I mean, obviously, from a humanitarian perspective, that is a very dangerous crossing. They're taking their lives into their own hands. They're so desperate. And, of course, they are being totally used by the traffickers.
Well, first of all, you'd hardly have any asylum claims because people will realise they can get a 1-year visa to work. Who'd want to pay an asylum gang to come over or risk their family on a boat?
So you think it would destroy the gangs?
It would destroy the gangs because you'd get this visa. What we could do, instead of them paying the gangs $3,000 to come over, we could say the fee for the visa is $3,000 to come over. We could charge a visa fee and they'll be happy to pay that on top of their tax and earnings. And we could say you have to pay $500. At the moment, migrants who come on a visa have to pay £624 a year per person to the NHS. It's called an immigration surcharge. We'd have that as well. So 3 people wanted to come over, you'd get $2 grand. It would be almost like a double taxation for the NHS. So you could do that. It would destroy the gangs. Also, we could control it. We could fingerprint everyone who come over. Everyone would need a passport. We'd know who they are. We'd know their correct IDs. There'd be no need for the backlogs, no need for the Home Office staff. It's sensible, but this government doesn't really do sensible.
And Harjap, in 10 seconds, tell me, do you think the Home Office would think about this? Do you think the government will actually consider this very quickly? Your quick answer.
No, because it's not a vote winner.